A very good morning to all of you. And I'm really glad and excited to be here in this region, presenting in front of you. I think it's always exciting to take a subject like qualitative research. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but somehow qualitative research gets neglected. You know, it doesn't get the sort of visibility. What gets to the boardroom eventually are hardcore numbers, and the management wants to see the hardcore numbers somehow. So, you know, I've been in this business for, say, almost, a decade or so, understanding, spending hours listening to consumers. But we are part of the insight and the foresight unit at Ericsson. We are a B2B company, so often I get a question, what do you guys have to do with consumers? But we work a lot with operators who eventually have, a direct play in the consumer field, and we are advising world's leading operators today how to stay ahead in the market. We've been doing this for almost 15 years now, spending close to, hours and hours listening to consumers, around 100,000 interviews that we do, a lot of qualitative research, going to around 40 countries, getting all this data in-house, and going out with some sort of an advisory support and, help to our customers to kind of stay ahead. Now, as I said, I've been in this, as a corporate researcher, I've possibly seen just the past 10 years of the evolution. Sorry, bear with my throat here. But I've just seen the past 10 years of the evolution as far as qualitative research is concerned. But I think it's worth to kind of go back in time and see how has qualitative research evolved from, say, 1930s, when it all started, to where we are today, right? So let's look at that. It all started actually back in 1930s, when the first depth interviews were done. By 1960, Ernest Dichter, I think all of you would possibly know, the father of motivation research, and he did focus groups in a small room above his garage. He called that living laboratory. And that's where, things really started and the momentum started to build up in terms of qualitative research. We got new approaches, ethnography, semiotic approaches, got commercially accepted by around 1980s or so. And then came the exciting time, internet-mediated research, 1990s. And from there on, we've seen a host of different tools being added to qualitative research, right from, bulletin boards, online focus groups, digital diaries, and you name it. The point that I'm trying to actually make out here is that qualitative research now has possibly a much broader toolkit than we ever had before. We're now sitting in 2013, and we have started to talk about a host of different tools, starting from mobile research, online communities, social media, neuroscience. So the toolkit is expanding as we speak today. So my question is to you guys, in 2013-14, can we give qualitative research another tool? The answer is yes, and that's my intent of the presentation today. To talk about cloud. Cloud is a very technology term. We did some research with consumers and asked them, what do you think about cloud? They didn't know a jack shit about cloud. They don't care. It's for us as researchers out here, to talk about these fancy terms, But what I really want to give you guys back is this new approach, a new tool today that we're going to coin in 2014 called the cloud, and how we can take qualitative research to the cloud, right? So this was all about history, where we are today, what is happening. But 2013-14, let me tell you, there's a lot of talk about mobile, and what we can do with mobile and qualitative research. And one of the big trends that we see today is all our lives today are getting increasingly mobilized. We did some research in India looking at a 14-year-old and tracking his usage patterns across the day. And we found that this 14-year-old in India probably mirrors usage pattern of a 25-year-old. That's the sort of digital evolution that we are seeing. These digital kids, they probably have more gadgets in their home that their families are going to ever have. But it's not just about these digital natives or kids, people like us as well. If if we start looking at our own patterns and how we use our smartphones and devices that we have in our hand, you would be amazed. How many of us actually send emails sitting in our toilets? This is actually coming from a lot of observational data and a lot of transactional data that we tend to gather. 6% of the people actually get up in the morning and start looking at horoscopes. How is my day going to be like today? And then you have people sitting up late in the night, ensuring that they actually send a goodbye kiss to their girlfriend before they sleep. That's how research, and qualitative research, or the evolution of mobile is happening in this particular era. But let me tell you, all this usage comes with certain set of problems. Did you know that when you start browsing on the internet on your mobile phone, if a web page does not load in, say, about 8 seconds, you feel stressed. And you just abandon that web page and move on to something else. So the whole mobile internet experience is possibly key for all of us. We can't possibly tweet about this event if the internet experience is going to be crappy. And as Ericsson, that's a big, kind of ask on us, because we build networks for the operators, and we manage those networks for the operators. And we have to run those networks 24/7 to ensure that you guys get the best possible mobile internet experience. And that's a big dilemma for us today, because we have a lot of data in-house, a lot of observational, operational, transactional data, passive metering, where we are measuring the mobile internet experience. And let me tell you, when we look at high growth markets, markets like India, Indonesia, Vietnam, we see all the key performance indicators of mobile internet experience in the red. And I hope you guys, will agree with me that the internet experience as far as speeds, reliability, accessibility of the connections are not yet there. And that's a big dilemma that we face. Now, when we looked at all this operational data, we said, okay, we need to kind of get to the other side and speak with the consumer. So we invested a lot in doing a lot of quantitative research, a lot of qualitative research, and here is what we got. High satisfaction scores. Amazing. Everybody is happy with the operator. Nobody wants to switch their operators. And when we started sitting down with them, speaking about, do you face issues or not, all the responses were very muted. It was all based on recall. I don't remember. Everything seems to be fine. So there is a clear mismatch between what we see from our operational data and what we kind of hear from the consumer when we are doing qualitative research. And that's the big dilemma that we wanted to solve at Ericsson. But we were continuously investing a lot in qualitative research, which was focused on traditional focus groups and in-depth interviews. And what it was really is just the same old dance and song. I hope all of you watch Bollywood movies, right? So how many of you have watched a Bollywood movie? Let me ask you. A fair bit of you guys, right? I love Bollywood movies. I'm a big fan of Bollywood movies, right? So Bollywood movies are colorful, but they're predictable. They have the same plot every time, again and again. So you have to, when you look at market research and how it relates to movies and cinema and the development in cinema, I think there is some inspiration that we can draw from there. And let me give you an example of that, right? This is a movie in Bollywood which actually released back in 1995. The Hindi title is Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, which in English is A Guy with a Big Heart Will Take the Bride, right? Now, as I said, these are very colorful movies, very predictable movies, but they always have the same plot. The boy meets the girl, they get in love, the parents are against the marriage, there is a dance, there is a song, there is a fight sequence, and a happy ending. Every time. The movie actually ran for 900 weeks. Can you imagine? An epic movie, blockbuster movie. It ran for 900 weeks. And all the movies that actually came after this movie had the same plot. The same script, the same story. All of the movies actually did decently well, let me tell you that. But so over the period of time, the success actually faded away. There were some directors who recently actually, said that, okay, I'm going to just turn this whole predictability theory upside down. In 2012, there is this movie called Wiki Donor, and it was made on a subject which is somehow a big taboo, in as far as our culture is concerned. It's about sperm donation. Now, come on, sperm donation, in a market like India and Bollywood, it's a culturally sensitive subject. How is this movie ever going to be successful? The movie had a shoestring budget, but it did 8 times its business in terms of what was invested in the movie. So these directors were bold enough and say, I'm going to turn this upside down and let me try this. And the movie was immensely successful. And now that trend has actually caught on in Bollywood. There are a lot of new young directors who are taking fresh look, fresh faces, going on and, designing these movies with shoestring budget. So it's not necessary that you have to pump in a lot of money to have success. Now this has some important learnings as how we see our research business as well. We have over and over again kind of tried the tested formula for success. And we're somehow scared to kind of take that extra step and say, okay, let me try something new here. And that's what we actually needed at Ericsson, because we were investing a lot in traditional research and we weren't getting the answers that we needed. We actually needed a new script for our movie. Something that can actually help us look at what is the true impact of poor consumer experience. And all in the moment. And that's where mobile actually plays a very, very important role. So what exactly can we do? And a researcher in me, talks about observation. Where do I possibly get a lot of ideas? And, I possibly get all of my ideas, speaking with kids. This guy called Weber is a 12-year-old, the son of my friend. We were visiting this place, his place, and he's a go-getter guy as far as technology is concerned. You want to ask about anything about devices and apps, he's the man. When I was sitting at his home, and we were discussing something, this guy was just frantically on his smartphone, chatting away to glory, as if we didn't exist. And all through the process, being a researcher myself, I was thinking, what the hell is he up to? And I asked him, what are you doing? He said, I have a group chat application on my phone, and I'm with my friends on that. We're discussing about technology, what new devices, what new applications and stuff. And that actually stuck to me for some time. A group chat application where this guy is actually discussing about new trends which are coming in the market. And I, being a researcher, I told him, can you help me here? Can you help me understand what is the mobile internet experience today? What do you think? What do you guys think about it? And immediately, he just posted a question on WhatsApp. Uncle wants to know what's the mobile internet experience. And down came hundreds of responses at that point of time, And I kind of went back with this big idea. Like, here is a 12-year-old telling me how I need to transform qualitative research. I went back to the agency and said, hey, guys, we need to do something here. I saw this group chat application called WhatsApp, and, here is how this guy is using it. Can we use this particular application in the way we actually do qualitative research today? And the research agency went back, and they never returned. It was like, you're crazy. This has never been tried before anywhere in the world. You're asking us to use WhatsApp and to do qualitative research? No, that's not going to happen. So I, again, kind of started speaking with a lot of people and posted this question to them. How can we take research to these mobile applications, which are already existing today? And I often would get the same answer. You need a private, professional community platform. You need to invest in a mobile research online community. That's 90% of the guys gave me the same answer. But wait a second. Just because people are using Facebook and Angry Bird on their phones doesn't necessarily apply that if I give them a new platform, they would be creating content and be engaging on it. That's not going to happen every time. We need to have a deeper understanding of how mobile phones are actually used in daily lives. This is where the consumers are. What are they doing with the mobile phones? Just giving them a tool and saying, hey, can you just log in and give us your responses is not going to help. And that's where we stumbled upon a very, very important insight. Getting a cue again from that 12-year-old, we looked at all the data that we had, and we found that around 30% of all time that you spend on the smartphone today is just on chat. We all are using applications like WhatsApp, WeChat, Line, Viber, KakaoTalk. They're there, they have the size and scale. And that's what was the key insight out there. And we chose eventually WhatsApp as the killer application for qualitative research because it's even bigger than Twitter, mind you, in some of these markets. So what was the eventual approach that we took? The traditional approach, we did in-depth interviews. We followed that up with an incident reporting mobile application. And this is something that we worked with an application developer, which was put on the phone. Every time you face an issue, users would actually report that to us. And I will talk a little bit about what we got from the incident reporting app. And then eventually, the same set of respondents were taken to a group chat application, which is WhatsApp. So we created a group of young users, and we asked them, we invited them to participate in a participative discussion on the same subject. So these are the same guys who are going from traditional in-depth interviews to having the app installed on the phone and eventually participating in a group chat session. So that's our approach that we took. This is all details about the incident reporting app. One of the interesting points out here is 8 questions, response in about 2 to 3 minutes, which some people would say is a little high, but let me tell you, people take their own time to respond, right? So we had the offline capability as well, so you can respond anytime you wanted to. And then emotional measurement, because what we were actually asking people to do is tell us how do you feel when you face the issue. Were you angry? Were you disappointed? Were you stressed? What did you feel? Because emotional measurement is very, very important in such context. And then eventually, as I said, the WhatsApp application, creating a group, getting these guys on the platform, on the freemium sort of platform, and then taking that to the next level. So then, the outcome, what was the outcome of the research really? What in-depth interviews gave us was predominantly the same insights that we have heard time and time again. What we got from the incident reporting application was that issues arose a lot of emotional response. People were outraged about it. But apparently, the emotional outburst was overtaken by rational decision making, and people have said, hey, I'm very angry about this, but I don't have any other operator to go to, so I'm going to stick with the guy. There is no other viable alternative available in the market today. So let me stay with the operator that I'm with right now in this context. And then, from the in-depth discussions that we had, we found that people feel trapped in this relationship with the operators today. And customer service was predominantly one of the big areas that they didn't trust. They have had problems, they don't want to pick up the phone, call up the operator, and just stay on the line, be on the hold, eventually to get to somebody to speak with. So all these insights went back to the operators with specific recommendations on customer service is going to be key focus for you guys. And now let me tell you, some of the operators are getting their customer service on WhatsApp. They're going to have chat agents on WhatsApp, so you can actually just get on the WhatsApp, speak with your customer service agent then and there, real time. So, big 3 areas: cost, speed, rich insights. From a cost perspective, this is totally free. No investment whatsoever. 35% reduction because we didn't have to invest in so much into traditional research. Speed. You don't have to spend time setting up the project. You don't have to travel as such. You can target difficult to reach respondents because in these markets, you have a lot of mobile-only internet users, right? So online is going to be always tough to interact and engage with these users. And then, of course, on demand. From the project setup to project, getting this kicked off 2 days, flat out. That's the speed of this, freemium mobile research online community. And then, of course, rich insights. Remember, but the key takeaway is this is not an alien environment. This is where people are spending 30% of their time, and hence the engagement levels are much higher. You're not asking people, giving them an artificial platform and saying, log in, we'll give you a certain set of questions, respond back whenever you have to. So this is not an alien environment. Emotional measurements are going to be the key. Data collection window was actually expanded. I'm doing a 2-hour focus group in a 3-day mobile study at their own convenience. So some of the learnings, some big learnings, anonymity and privacy. The big problems for us there was that you're using the mobile number as a unique identity, which is a big problem, I must say, and we haven't got around that completely. Let me be very candid about it. Inability to observe facial expressions, body language, that's a big plus for traditional research, and that's the reason why we did have in-depth interviews at the very start of the process. Device and connectivity issues, they're always going to slow you down. If things don't work as they're supposed to, there will be big roadblocks. And then, of course, limited language support. So then, how is the future of cloud going to be? And this is possibly the last slide that I have out here. Imagine you as a corporate researcher want to recruit people who are 600 meters away from you at that particular instant. 600 meters away from you from a particular grocery store or a shopping complex. You have the capability today of doing that with these freemium chat applications that are available today. The screenshot that you have is actually from WeChat, which helps you identify male, female respondents or who are probably 100 meters, 600 meters away from you. So that's the evolution of how things are going to be. Emotional measurements, as I said, they're already coming through these chat applications. In the moment, real-time feedback. Hybrid approaches, you can poll. You can actually set up a survey in WhatsApp or WeChat or whatever chat applications that you have, and you can do polling with these applications. And then storytelling. This is a very, very powerful tool. You're giving a tool to the consumer to say, create your own story. You're not fabricating anything out here. And that's like a studio in your pocket. So then, my question to you guys is, are you as a researcher, going to go think about it? If the answer is yes, then cloud is a democracy. Please start using it, because you don't have to actually invest something to be taking a plunge into this particular area. So then, let's write the next blockbuster script, because this is going to be the future of how qualitative research is going to be. Thank you.
We just did in Indonesia same study using WhatsApp with Unilever, and it's really successful. So with your question, are we ready to go today? Then I said yes, and the experience is wonderful. So I just want to convince everybody, democracy is already here. The future is already come.
Great.
So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
So my question is that with new methods, how far do you think it requires clients and agencies to think about problems differently, as well as the change in the engagement model between clients and and agencies?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And I think, when I speak with the agencies and when we demand such new approaches, often, agencies would come back and tell you that, porting of such new solutions is not possible because it doesn't make market sense. You don't have enough people on board to kind of go ahead and take that innovation to your specific market. So that's a challenge that we see somehow in that space. So a lot of our projects today, Ericsson has to actually do the matchmaking. So working with the application developer, working with the research agency, working with panel providers, it's eventually very complex, but we have to take the task of actually going ahead and doing the matchmaking somehow. So that's the effort that may be required from the corporate researchers or client researchers out here to take that step. If you really strongly believe that you need something innovative and you want to go beyond traditional, because if you continue to invest in a lot of the same methodologies, probably you're getting the same answers again and again. So that's the intent that is needed. You need to be much open in your engagement model, talking freely about your problems with your research agency. I often see, clients being very, very stingy about not discussing too much and not giving away too much to the research agency because there's a lot of proprietary information. But they would not know what your real pain point is if you're going to hold back. So let yourself loose and speak freely with the agency what your real pain point is. In this case, we discussed completely with the agency, what we've been doing with you is not good enough. We may cannibalize your business, but this is an opportunity for you to take a new methodology to a commercial offer. So that was a big win for the research agency to be a part of it.
I just wanted to understand, when you do get responses from your WhatsApp chat group, etc., how do you distinguish between responses that are more sort of heat of the moment, immediate frustration versus something that might be deeper and might have a deeper resonance or a deeper tension when it comes to that?
One of the good approaches that we use eventually, since we had the incident reporting app for the same set of respondents, we knew exactly what they were reporting during the week or so. And we exposed the results coming from the incident reporting app to the entire group in WhatsApp. So the analysis was actually exposed to the respondents, and suddenly when a group sees that, hey, it's not just me who's facing this issue, suddenly people come out and with their real emotions about that particular problem, because most in context of a traditional approach, people will hold themselves back talking too much. We want to come across as always saying the politically correct thing. So that was, I believe, a big takeaway from us, taking a more longitudinal approach rather than just possibly doing a group. You expose results on the way with the users.
I'd like to know how big is your sample group, and is the profile the same for the group, or do you have different profile groups?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. The sample in this case was around 25 people who went through this process, this entire 3-stage process. There was the same set of people that we had, and the interesting thing was this was a mixed mode group, so we had both females and males involved in this process. And one of the big key takeaways for us is that after we've done this research, we believe we can actually take this forward in terms of having a larger engagement to form a community, because consumers somehow felt that they were not being heard in the traditional channel. And now they have a mechanism in place which is on their phone all time in the form of a WhatsApp group where they eventually interact. And that gives them an opportunity to actually open up and start engaging with other users as well, despite we not making that intervention. So the group is still up and running. We are not doing any specific intervention to it, but people are discussing about a lot of tech issues and issues that they kind of face. So we see that opportunity to take that from just an ad hoc research to maybe a long-term 3-month, 6-month community engagement using WhatsApp.
And as I understand it, with online groups such as this, you get a very high dropout rate. Can you comment on that? I mean, of the responses that you analyze and eventually take your insights from, I mean, how does that represent the community as a whole that you recruited in initially, or would it be that certain individuals are driving that predominantly? So,
as I said, we had 25 respondents. All the 25 respondents actually stayed through the entire process. We eventually did 2 WhatsApp groups, which was divided into 10 each because of the limitation of WhatsApp to only add 10 members. But I think that eventually going forward, you will have applications that can enable you to have a larger engagement. But from our experience, we saw that the usual dropout rates that you would see on online were not visible on the mobile side, primarily because of the sheer convenience of responding anytime that you wanted to. So we could post a question and we could get a response maybe late in the night or early morning, whenever people wanted to respond back. And then we set a specific time for a group discussion. So 7 p.m. in the evening is when everybody used to gather on the WhatsApp group and then have a more participative discussion.
I would like to ask you why people are more open to WhatsApp instead of traditional DI. What is your thought about it?
Yeah, I think, there is a recent report, I don't know if you guys have looked at it or not, from GRIT, which is being run by Green Book, and they've done a fair bit of analysis on research on research. You know, how do survey respondents actually respond back? And what we did see is that desktop is still the king, you know, when it comes to survey responses. Mobile is growing, but it's growing very slowly. And that's because consumers have a perception that I still have to give a survey eventually on your mobile phone, right? Irrespective if it's going to be 1 or 2 questions or 4 questions, but it's still a survey to some extent. The reason why WhatsApp actually works is because you are getting into their natural environment. This is where consumers are spending most of the time. And you're not artificially intervening in their daily time. You know, 67% of respondents never participate in any surveys that you do. So this is an opportunity for us to actually have fresh respondents participating in whatever projects you're doing by the sheer facts that you are getting into their natural environment, in the way that they actually use their phone in their daily lives. You're not asking for them for a piece of their time that they have to take out from their daily lives.
Did you at any stage feel that people are over, responding in terms of their angst with their experience, because they were in a environment like this?
We did see that when we had the incident reporting app, we got around 9 to 10 issues being reported in a week. Now we felt that it was a bit way too high, but from the past researches that we have done, we saw that only 2% of people who face a bad experience actually respond to a survey, right? So looking at that and looking at what we got, we were very pleased, because most of the time when you face a bad experience, you don't really respond back. You don't respond to customer satisfaction surveys from the operators. You don't really care. You start thinking about terminating the relationship then and there. But in this case, since it was being run independently and it was not an operator-driven initiative, people just came all out, reporting every small issue that they could from the incident reporting app. And we believe, because we have a lot of passive data as well, we can easily correlate and see that these were genuine responses that came in.
My query is that this method actually worked with like teenagers or normal consumers. So do you think this qualitative method will work with, say, some high-profile people like, say, physicians, or if you want to have a group of physicians or some high-net-worth individuals? Do you think this method
absolutely. I think it would work fabulously with high-net-worth individuals, and as you talk about physicians, because these guys are really crunched with time. Ask them to participate in a focus group, spend 2 to 3 hours. They're just not going to bother about getting and participating in these surveys. But tell them, you can do this sitting in your clinic. Just respond back anytime you want to, participate in a discussion at 7 p.m. in the night when you're free or relatively in your off-peak hours. That, I think, really works. The challenge is, though, in the bottom of the pyramid. The challenge is not really in the high-net-worth individuals, because I don't think we have cracked the bottom of the pyramid where you have a lot of feature phone users. How are we going to get into that segment is where the evolution of applications is going to be. And I believe we will get there at some extent. But high net worth, the type of profiles that you're talking about, is not a problem.